Hello, happy Wednesday, September 16th. It is nearing the month of the spookiness. We have some spooky topics to cover today, but before we get into that, we're going to talk about this day in history. So take it away, sir.
Yes, on September 16th, 1620. It actually fits in with this whole spooky season. 1620, the Pilgrims set sail aboard the Mayflower from England. 1908, General Motors files papers of incorporation. 1920, 30 people were killed in Wall Street during a terror bombing. Never really solved, but it turned out, if people made educated guesses, and throughout time it turned out that it was an Italian anarchist group.
Sacco and Vanzetti?
Complaining after World War I about labor issues, and they were taking part in some civil unrest, and the educated guesses were pointing at them as the culprits. 1945, Japan surrenders Hong Kong to Britain. 1978, there was a 7.9 on the Richter scale earthquake in Iran. 1925, B.B. King was born.
Good day.
1952, Mickey Rourke was born.
Who's Mickey Rourke?
An actor.
Okay.
He was in The Wrestler. He was in The Pope of Greenwich Village.
I've heard his name.
Very famous. He was an actor who was popular young Hollywood actor, and then his career and drugs and some issues took over, and he ended up becoming a boxer, and his face got pretty
mangled.
Yeah, he did okay, but he ended up having a ton of plastic surgery. So now he's known as much for his crazy plastic surgery as he is for being an actor.
He was a pioneer.
He came back though in a movie called The Wrestler, which he was, he got rave reviews for. So his career has been kind of on the uptick. Except, I mean, when you see him, it's one of those people you look at and he looks nothing like he used to look, and so he's known a lot for that. But that's who Mickey Rourke is.
Let me take a look.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I think.
I
know this strange character.
Yeah, so that's Mickey Rourke.
Wow.
At some point, we'll have it where we could show the audience on a screen as we up our technology, but everybody knows who Mickey Rourke is, basically. Most people.
And now most people also have the internet.
Yeah, so when they see him...
Anyone who's curious to see a little bit of a freak show.
Yeah. But he was a very good actor, so it was like one of those things that, he's known for both. But, yeah, so that's Mickey Rourke.
So
we had a little accidente before. Somehow we were in a discussion about an odd dream that you had, and it somehow got recorded onto my I don't know. My hand.
So
my fingers hit the thing, and I don't even know how it got recorded. But anyway,
let's take this apart a little bit. For
talk
the
about
listeners.
what you were dreaming about.
So, about 99% of my life, I don't remember dreams, if not more.
Right.
Most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
But last night, I had probably one of the strangest dreams I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
And it entailed the Grim Reaper. And I know we were talking before the cast, like it's just such a strange concept to dream about.
Sure.
And I'm a happy guy. I mean, I don't have any issues with anything.
Yeah.
So it was just a unique dream.
Yeah, that's real dire. It's not even like it's a little...
It's not, it's extreme.
Yeah, so... Interesting. What did the Grim Reaper look like? Was it like on like a Led Zeppelin album cover when you see the guy?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It was just the skeleton wasn't there.
Okay.
It was like
the hood.
Its face reminded me a lot of just a black screen or a black hole.
Okay.
Like you ever look at a black screen that's got the electricity pumping into it?
Sure.
So it kind of had that effect.
Carrying a sickle?
And it was carrying a sickle, and it levitated about 1.5 feet off the ground.
Wow.
So there was no skeletal, it was just energy.
Interesting.
And we were on a farm complex, kind of, which oddly enough reminds me an awful lot of my buddy's place.
Yeah. Well, could be why that was in that.
Yeah, it was pretty much pretty much identical, but I can't be sure. And there was this house on the property that we all kind of were very skeptical of. And when we would walk by it, there was a window pane, and you would kind of see the Grim Reaper brush by the window, and we all knew that meant that he was leaving his house.
Right.
So what it meant to us was time to get the hell out of there. Like, there's nothing to see.
Yeah.
And we'd run, we'd be like on the top of a hill or something, and you would just see him like by himself just strolling through the trails in the woods.
The Grim Reaper.
The Grim Reaper, looking
Wow.
for whatever the heck it was that he wanted, which is obviously a soul.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's what they're on the search for, the soul, right? Is that the supposed...
Yes. So I had been confronted by him in the dream about 3 times.
Uh-huh.
And fortunately, each time I made it through. It was as if he wasn't actually looking for me. Like, you ever see Sleepy Hollow?
Yes.
And how, like, sometimes the horseman would ride by someone and go for someone else.
Yes.
It was like that.
That was a great movie.
Absolutely. Christopher Lee was great in that
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
Just
I love that
5
type
minutes,
of gothic, like, scenery and stuff.
especially in New York.
It's right up my alley, yeah. It's right up my alley.
With all that being said, there was a couple things that stood out to me, and one of them was there was a bowling alley that I had gone to a lot as a child with my grandfather. He was in the leagues and everything, and it had just closed down recently because of COVID.
Wow.
And that's a real shame. Like there was,
Been
roller
around a
rinks
long
are gone,
time. Bowling alleys.
drive-ins are gone. Now bowling alleys are slowly but surely kind
These
of
small businesses are just, they're
disappearing.
having trouble.
But I had at the time, it was a different world back then. The basement was like, at the end of the season, all the heavy hitters of the bowling teams would have their raffles and their money handouts and everything, and it was also a playroom for the kids.
Oh wow, okay.
So they would often hire just like a nice lady to sit down there and like mind all the kids.
Oh,
it was
okay.
pretty cool.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and there was like little bowling. It was actually pretty fun. But I was, for some reason, down there talking to the pro shop guy and the old general manager, this guy Rock and this guy Nick.
Okay.
And they both looked pretty bummed because I think that was like their life.
Yeah.
I think in real life they're probably very bummed about it,
Sure.
And sure enough, who shows up?
Grim Reaper?
The Grim Reaper at this freaking bowling alley of all places.
Wow.
And we were like, well, see y'all later.
Yeah.
Got the hell out of there. And then he kind of showed up at like a department store that I was at. So that's why I say it was about 3 times.
Yeah, and it's very different.
And 3 is a very powerful number.
Yes, it is. It's a very different type of places that he's showing up at, too.
Yeah, and they all mean a lot to me. I don't know so much about the department store, but what's interesting about the department store, it was actually more like a restaurant depot than Costco.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of like maybe the restaurant thing related to.
Yeah, it's got a relation to you, sure.
But I wanted to just take a second. I woke up in the morning and I was kind of startled because when you're in this dream state, you feel the fear.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling, but I was absolutely horrified when I was confronted by this. It was no joke. Yeah. It was like,
well, that's
crap.
a dire, to have that dream with that character in it is pretty dire. I mean.
So, essentially, I'm gonna kind of just read off what the Google definition is of what this would mean. To dream of a Grim Reaper is usually a bad omen of negativity and death. It represents part of yourself that you haven't discovered yet, or you have discovered yet.
Right.
Dreaming of a Grim Reaper usually represents the end of someone or something, like a job, a relationship, a habit, a situation in your life. Which is interesting because that bowling alley meant a lot to me, and it's just recently, last week, had to shut its doors. The restaurant.
Terrible. It's permanent, you said?
The restaurant industry for me is a little bit of a sore spot, and that's not something we've really covered too much. I mean, I have, but it's like kind of a disaster right now.
Yeah.
And after we finish about this, we're going to get into a little bit of what COVID's going to do in the next month or two. So it was just bizarre, and it was very real, and I woke up sweating, and I felt like I had to research this Grim Reaper because I never thought of it, It's just to me like a caricature of something. But the Grim Reaper apparently lives in heaven, if you believe in this kind of thing anyway.
Right.
Pretty much all major religions have a version of it. In Islam, it's called Azrael.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
You know. So in the Muslim religion or the Islam religion,
or Judaism, there is a representation of this figure.
But in the Islamic religion, it's called
Azrael,
which is very close to Israel, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So the Grim Reaper carries a sickle or a dagger. And if it doesn't have those, what it does is they use the term throttle you.
Okay.
Which means choke you.
Choke you. Mm-hmm.
But on the end of his...
This is the interesting part.
On the end of his weapon, or his staff...
Sure.
It's very, noted that there's a drop of bile, which is produced by our liver and stored in the gallbladder, for those that don't know. And it's a very unique compound in our body, what it does, what it represents. You know, it helps you digest. It also helps you, break down toxins. It's just a strange thing.
Yeah.
And
How interesting, though, that's you would think it's like blood or something, but there's a bit of bile on the edge of you, incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, amazing. When I read that, I was just like, whoa, couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Amazing.
Because people, who the hell knows that? Not many people, you know. So, and what it represents is, the detoxification.
Sure.
And the,
impurities and filtering.
But the Grim
out.
Reaper was at one point a warrior, a religious
warrior
at some point.
Okay, gotcha.
And he lives in heaven. And so most people think he's a creature of hell.
Right, which I didn't realize.
Which is not the case. He's a servant of God.
Wow.
And so it was actually a very useful dream because it's just taught me something. So, I never...
I would have never thought that he was a servant of God or he was from heaven. I never would have thought that.
Yeah, who puts two and two together like that? But, so that's my story on the weird dreams. And I hope to God I don't have another one like that. It was really, really creepy.
I've never dreamt of it. Like I said to you earlier when we were talking about it, I've never dreamt of a character, a caricature of something or a character like that. My dreams are usually real people, and people, usually it's people that have, and I think most people have similar dreams, as far as who's in their dreams, but I have never heard of something by anybody close that had the Grim Reaper. It's interesting. It's very, obviously you were spending time at your friend's farmhouse, so that would have been something that, I see the reasoning, I think also...
The symbolism was right on.
Yeah, and the fact that with the bowling alley being closed...
And that's a deep part of my heart, in my childhood.
Right, and with what's been going on with COVID and stuff, and the quarantining, and it's, things are still uncertain.
100%.
Apparently, Como okayed trick-or-treating, so I was quick to jump the gun on that yesterday, saying he didn't.
Macy's Day Parade, though, is
virtual. That's virtual?
Yeah. Which,
okay.
I could go on for that, but it is, what are we going to do? It's, but what's worth noting about this whole thing is when you got out of the car to come in here, the first thing I did was run. I had to tell you this.
Sure.
I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
And you're pretty technologically illiterate.
Yeah.
So even to record a live video for you would probably be difficult for your phone.
It's done accidentally.
It was totally done accidentally. I was telling him this story.
Yeah.
And we get into the house, we're sitting down, we're finishing the story, and his phone turns on and it plays back this entire dream.
Yeah.
And not only did it record on his phone, but it uploaded the entire thing to Facebook.
God, thank God it wasn't a
Well, no, but
deviant dream of some sort.
It could have been really bad. But
holy cow.
But with all those coincidences,
Jesus.
I wasn't going to share this at first because I didn't want people to get...
Yeah.
But I think
now
people will enjoy... Yeah, we have no choice.
Yeah, but people have... look, it was an interesting... first of all, like I said, it's a dream for me where I've never actually... But I do hear of these dreams, and it's... Jimmy Page was obsessed with the Grim Reaper, among other ghoulish things, but that was Grim. He supposedly turned into the Grim Reaper. If you watch "Song Remains the Same" by Led Zeppelin, there's scenes throughout the movie where all four of them live out certain dreams, and Robert Plant's like a Nordic warrior aboard a horse going through the the greens and
That's
stuff.
what I loved about them.
And John Paul Jones was like a what do they call those guys?
A Knights Templar.
It'll come to me. He was carrying around like a lantern, and he was sometime, in
a tavern
Gothic England, and he was on, the term will come to me. John Bonham was like a race car driver, and then he was in a bar hanging out playing pool. But Jimmy Page morphed into an old man and was looking right at himself as an old man as the Grim Reaper. It was like a weird scene. So it was pretty interesting to. Yeah.
So they would, if Led Zeppelin's listening, I would love
Jimmy Page.
Yeah, Jimmy Page, drop a comment. Let me know about some stuff with the.
We're alike. We got
we got a lot in common, man. That's funny.
But but that was a cool. That movie, obviously, it's very dated when you watch it. I mean, you can't beat seeing.
I watched it, and now when you're mentioning it, it's coming back to me. It's been a while.
You can't beat seeing the live concert scenes of Zeppelin. I mean, they are what they are.
I loved how they took, like, the blues, and then they took, like, Lord of the Rings ideas,
Tolkien,
like, strange things.
Great.
The Gates of Mordor
band.
and everything.
Great band.
Oh, my God.
Great.
That's
great
the thing
band.
when people say they, like, plagiarize.
Yeah.
They were the first one with that concept.
Yeah. Their early stuff... some of the songs those were their influences, but I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff they did, they bettered the original.
But then you listen to like Achilles' Last Stand or In the Evening. Who the hell was making that?
By midway through, they were their own, totally own entity. I mean, it's not even.
When I was a youngster, one of my favorite tunes was In the Evening. Because to me, I always noticed how he used the Fender Strat for that song, and he was always kind of like a Gibson guy.
Which is odd that you noticed the guitar in that song, because that whole album was seen as like their keyboard album. It was like John Paul Jones's, because Page by that point was with drugs. So it's interesting that you noticed, but
the tone of it to me, like you're much more of an 80s guy than I am, but when I hear that that is the tone of the 80s.
Right. Well, that was the dawn. That was 79. That was the dawning of the 80s.
They were the beginning of that whole flow.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and I hear it in that song, especially when you compare like certain acts like Duran Duran.
Yeah.
They have that tone.
They copy that. Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? They were. It was. It's pretty remarkable, actually. But Jimmy Page looks great nowadays. Like even for his age.
Well, what's good about him.
Body
what's good? He pickled himself with all the booze and the dope. But what's good about him was, he's not dyeing his hair jet black to look like
he looks like a wizard.
Yeah. He let it go gray, and he's just like a stately older guy.
You know how you said like in like the 80s, like the guys.
That's my favorite guitarist, so I'll never say a bad word. I mean, I used to argue with this guy when I was a kid. And it was like my first real job. I was working in a warehouse, and these guys were all like 80s rockers and stuff. And one guy, hated Jimmy. Oh, he's sloppy. Led Zeppelin sloppy.
Chicken scratch.
Yeah, so I mean.
That's the best part.
But at the end of the day, he's one of the best. He is one of the best. So, but that was a cool sequence. It reminded me of your dream because he was looking right at himself, morphing into an old man. What's funny is that when you look at him now and you look at what he was picturing himself morphing into, the guy had the gray hair tied back. It's just some more like he doesn't look quite as old as the guy in the hood, but like how he pictured himself there, it was, pretty interesting.
That's like precognition that they were able to put in film.
Well, he was very into that stuff. He had purchased Aleister Crowley's house. He lived in Aleister Crowley's house, and that was Jimmy Page's.
I could totally understand. Like as I get older, I could probably live in a haunted castle.
That was Jimmy Page's thing. He was very into that type of stuff in the 70s. He was.
I've lately been having a lot of strange conversations with people because, as we were talking about, a lot of people have since COVID had their brains rattled in their head. Mm-hmm. So I was always a little bit of into conspiracy theories and just unexplained things. Now a lot of people are. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun for me because now I can have conversations with people about things that you really never.
Sure. Everything is out of whack where people in the past who were totally against weaponry or guns.
Right. Now they're shocked how hard it is
now
to
they're
buy.
Asking to buy a gun, or borrow a gun or something. something you don't want to loan out. But,
We were no, definitely not.
You know.
Get your own.
Yeah.
It was interesting though because I was having a conversation with a friend last night, and I've always felt that where I live on Long Island, particularly here,
Yeah.
has had a very strange history. For example, the Blue Point Brewing Company building.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that building?
I've passed it. Yeah. Never
That
been
was
in
built
there, but-
like right after the Civil War.
Mhm.
And so there's like a deep, rich history here of a lot of stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, like, people always talk about Salem, Massachusetts as like where witches and the witch trials were
Yeah.
going down.
Yep.
But Patchogue, Long Island, if you Google,
Okay.
in like the 1600s, before any of this was a witch hub.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That stuff's very interesting. I mean, I
19
like all the gothic type of stuff. I just
Yeah.
it's-
I mean, and imagine in the 1600s what this area must have looked like.
Yeah.
It's still kind of like
well, that's the thing, and you think about it. That's like 100 years before
America was
yeah,
even conceived
yeah,
of.
Yeah.
Like the Dutch didn't even care.
There's a little church. Well, it's not little, but there's a church in Smithtown on one of the corners,
Oh, yeah.
right across from the diner.
I always pass that going to the bowling alley.
And right, and when you look at it, some parts of it have been added on throughout time, but I believe it was like 1689 or something.
1645, I
1645. I mean,
Presbyterian, I think it is.
yeah. Just to stand in somewhere that's been just to touch a piece of wood that's been around that long, it's like
Insane.
Wow, you know,
Well, there's like always these theories
fascinates
of like
me.
structures maintaining memory.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like
Energy and
the
stuff.
Black Keys actually talked about that because they recorded their album Brothers in Muscle Shoals.
Oh,
And
best place
so-
to record an album. One of the best.
Yeah, and they were talking about that like it's a dingy, nothing to see here
Yeah.
type of place, but the walls.
Well, a lot of those recording studios like that, people, you know, they become the stuff of legend when you get there. It's not as Abbey Road. It's, you know, very.
It's just the land.
Yeah, but it's the stuff that was recorded there, and like you said, the you know, those if buildings can maintain energy and stuff that goes on there, it's amazing.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
And you know, whether you believe it or not, it's fun to entertain it.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
I think it's but back to over here though.
Yeah.
The Patchogue area.
So this was a hub of witchcraft, and
Witchcraft
stuff.
at one
and-
point.
Wow.
And I'm not sure how long it lasted,
Mm-hmm.
but when I first moved in here, that was one of the first little files that I uncovered. And then,
I'm fascinated by stuff that took place here
pre-America.
pre-America.
Me too.
Yeah. When you go to places from the 1600s, and it's like, wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Whoa.
that's settlers.
And then sometimes I look at a tree. I mean, it's like, you could go so far with this, but sometimes I'll look at a tree, like a very old tree, and I'm just like,
That's
Man.
actually what I was going to hit,
Yeah,
the next topic.
what
On
is it that
Grove-
you've seen? You know? This-
On Grove Avenue over here,
yeah.
there's this really creepy strip of woods you walk through.
Right.
And it takes you to what's known as the hanging tree.
Okay, I've heard of that tree.
Very old tree. I can't believe it hasn't been cut down.
Right.
But when you Google it, you see that it's literally right over the Patchogue River. It's on the bank, it's
Okay.
on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
And when you Google it, you see the images, you see this branch, and you know
What was going on?
that
there?
was the branch.
Wow.
So I've walked through the woods a few times. I've actually recently had the urge to kind of do it in the nighttime.
Sure.
It's just, I get a rush from that stuff.
Yeah.
And so we went there a few times, and you walk up on it, and it's reminds me, going back to the Sleepy Hollow thing. You know how the Headless Horseman would
Yeah,
go back
right.
to that
Yeah.
tree?
Mhm.
It reminds me of that. It actually kind of looks like that tree. It's crazy.
Wow.
And so in the olden days, like pre-1900s, 1700s, it's an old tree. People had notoriously hung themselves from it. Native Americans had hung themselves from
Wow.
it. It was just like a really...
Yeah.
and I think
trees
the
are
last reported case
fascinating
was in
for
the
that stuff.
50s of a hanging there.
Wow.
But when you walk through the woods, there's
Yeah.
children's dolls and old mattresses.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those
Yeah.
forgotten about places, and then
Yeah.
there's deer. Very, very scary.
Yeah, I always look at those old time, trees that you just know have been there for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, you were around when the Civil War was going on, or you were around when.
Are you familiar with the Greenland shark?
No.
They live. I think like the oldest one is 500 years old.
Yeah, I know that there's some animals that live an insanely long amount of time, but
I'm
I
gonna
didn't know
just
that.
pull
It
up
was
some stats
sure.
on that
Yeah.
because like
Wow.
the tree's cool, but the shark was
Yeah.
swimming.
Yeah.
The Greenland shark. Let's see here.
I think there's some type of tortoises or turtles that live very long also. That can.
So the average lifespan on a Greenland shark is 272 years.
Oh, goodness.
According to their research, the Greenland shark
Wow.
has a lifespan of at least 272 years, and as much as 512,
Wow.
as far as
Wow.
they know, the oldest living vertebrae.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? Like, how do they not study those things to try to figure out like what's in their DNA?
Right.
Like, what the
right,
hell is that?
Right. Or use some type. Well, of
They don't
course,
want to molest them.
thinking
and
like
bother
a
them
human.
and-
Let's take some of its cells for a stem
Right.
cell. But still, I mean.
What's interesting about them is that their eyes, they go blind because they develop these parasites that latch onto
Sure.
their eyeballs, and it
Yeah.
looks like little strands
Oh,
coming
wow.
out. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, they go blind. But they're just these docile creatures that swim in the cold waters of like the North Atlantic.
Well, that's
and
what it is. They're probably just slow.
Slow.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I know that there's.
they're big too.
Like I said, a tortoise that lives very long, hundreds of years, and just
Can you
incredible.
imagine?
Incredible. But 500 years.
512 years. What was 512 years ago? I can't even like.
Well, the New World was just newly, I mean, it's been discovered before Columbus, but like for all intents and purposes, if we're
Yeah.
discussing Columbus's time, you're talking
It was
1500s
yeah.
basically.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable stuff. Like to me, that's
Europe was in the middle of the Renaissance. I
Yeah.
mean,
So there's sharks that are swimming around today
yeah,
that were like
Yeah.
hanging out.
right.
I think that's unbelievable.
Right. While like the Mona Lisa was being,
Yeah.
like that era,
It's just
Sistine
unbelievable.
Chapel, all the historic things that you think about, and
Then
incredible.
in 1966, reported by the local Patchogue Police Department,
Okay.
was a UFO sighting
In 1966.
in 1966. And it was reported, and I posted this on my Facebook, so anybody who
Mm-hmm.
would like to see the article can check it there. They said it looked like a hot dog with different color, like rainbow lights. But I just thought it was interesting, and it was like reported in like a Pennsylvania newspaper.
Wow.
That's where the article's at. So it's like an old local newspaper from
Yeah.
Pennsylvania reporting on a police
About
department
here.
finding from
Wow.
Patchogue. So weird.
You could find a lot of that.
The
you
internet
look up
is
those,
sick.
Yeah, you look up those old documents and stuff online. And
You would
could
have to
find
go to like a
clues.
dingy like
Yeah, yeah,
basement of a
yeah.
library in the past.
Yeah.
Now I can just like, if you
Incredible.
search hard enough, you can get it.
Well, that's the thing. That's there's the argument when you talk about is it better before the internet? I mean, when you look at the things that the internet is better for, things
me,
like
no
that.
question, yeah.
I mean, just the entertainment value alone of finding something like that, especially when you're somebody that's interested in it. But Long Island, the history is so rich. I mean, it's.
I
Just,
did a kind of like a podcast on my other YouTube channel. I just called it Strange Long Island.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time talking about Plum Island and
that's-
Montauk.
Sure.
And
Yep.
it was
Plum
about
Island's very
an
interesting.
hour long discussion, and a lot of people actually jumped into the
Yeah.
live chat. It was a live recording. And the things that I just on Wikipedia that I
Right.
discovered about Plum Island, I was like, holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Dutch duck disease
Mm-hmm.
originated there, killed off all of our native Long Island ducks. So if you ask your dad, like grandpa, or like people who were around then, Long Island was known for ducks.
Yeah.
You ever see the
yeah,
duck
well,
in
that's
Calverton?
what the big duck is. I mean, that's the.
We were like the duck
Yes.
capital of
Yep.
the world.
Mhm.
And this disease escaped Plum Island, infected the ducks, and the government launched a program to literally execute the ducks. They were
Wow.
killed. They weren't. They didn't
Wow.
die off from the disease. The government killed them. On top of that, this is just where my head's at today, and
Yeah.
I feel it's pretty fun. But there was the hoof and mouth
Yes,
disease,
that I've heard of that.
which was like a combatant to the Soviet
Right.
so we could starve them
Sure.
if the need be and kill off all their cows. But they had to put the kibosh on that because if that broke out and it got into mainland, we would have all starved.
Right. That's, you know.
On top of that, Lyme's disease also has strange origins to Plum Island.
Wow.
And then to even further it some more, West Nile virus. So if you know anybody out there who kind of wants to get deep and look it up, check out Plum Island. That's
very
the
interesting
spot.
Place. I mean, it's.
I was watching the chef. He has this little cooking thing. He owns a restaurant in New London, Connecticut. It's called Daddy Jack's, and it was interesting because he's cooking and he starts to bring up Plum Island because they were doing duck à l'orange.
Oh, no kidding.
And he was like, yeah, well, Long Island was like the place for ducks. And then he brought that up, and I was like, this guy knows too. A lot of people don't know.
No, it's and it's really not far from here. When you think about it, it's like, God, all these crazy diseases. Yeah. So Long Island, just the history of Long Island is just,
it's bizarre.
Very long. It's one of the oldest places that was discovered in this country. It's
the most densely populated island, I believe, in North America.
Amazing.
There's more people in the town of Brookhaven than in the city of Miami.
Just wasn't constructed for this many people. It really wasn't.
No.
It's a tough. The roadways, and you see it during times that are, obviously during rush hour. I mean, in this place, LA is the same way. It's similar. Same thing, It just wasn't to have the foresight back in the 20s or the early 1900s to construct the roadways to meet the challenge of today's commuters and stuff. It's impossible. It's impossible.
What was interesting too about this Plum Island is that nowadays I believe it is a bird sanctuary, but any other mammal that is found on the island is put to death.
Wow.
To this day. And it's like super duper quarantine, lockdown, biohazard, special clearance. You can't land a boat there, nothing.
Well, I remember the first time I saw a quarantine was when I was headed to Maryland, Laurel, Maryland, to take the CIA test.
Right, I remember you telling me about that.
And amongst our travels, we had passed a quarantine, and it was just interesting. I was 21, 22. But to see this fence, and then it had the skull and crossbones, and do not go past this. And I, what the hell what is this? And your grandfather said this is where they house infectious diseases and other things that they're trying out. Right. And I mean,
so in the 90s, I believe Hillary Clinton was involved with, it's maybe something positive that she did, but who the hell knows?
Yeah.
Trying to get some regulations on Plum Island, try to get some more government insight, because as we know, they don't cooperate with each other, all these different government agencies.
Yep.
So she had a hand in Plum Island. Go figure. I don't know if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But this is all off of Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But
it's just an interesting place because, again, there's so many of these little pockets on Long Island or off the coast of the island that some people don't even know that they exist or what they were used for. And it's
you have the Montauk area, which is another bizarre place, also military base.
Yeah.
They really were watching for German U-boats.
Yep.
They had the Rough Riders, Teddy Roosevelt encampment out there, and they also experimented with time travel out there, which is what the Netflix series Stranger Things is loosely based off of. And that plant is still there at Camp Hero.
That's my favorite topic is time travel and stuff.
Me too.
It was a great show when I was a kid called Voyagers, and it came out in I believe 82, 83, and it was a show where there was a young kid, probably about 12 or 13, and this swashbuckling character. His real name was John Eric Hexum. He ended up dying. He was poised to be like a Brad Pitt type of star. Very handsome guy, perfect voice,
kind of like me.
Exactly.
Right.
And he was making a film, and he went to shoot, or somebody shot a gun. It was supposed to be a blank, but something ricocheted, and it ended up killed him.
Wow.
But he was the main time traveler, and he grabbed this kid with him, and they would travel, they would drop down, and he had a little, almost like a pocket watch, And wherever they set that for, they would end up, and all of a sudden they'd be walking through Nazi Germany, and then all of a sudden they'd about to be getting captured, and they'd end up in like the middle of the Civil War. It was just all of, they just time traveled everywhere. But as a kid in the 80s, I just remember I loved that show.
Well, then I can't stress enough that you should check out Art Bell on Periscope. That's his YouTube channel. Because he has legitimate scientists. Not like sometimes he'll have like the topic called Anything Goes.
Right, I got
Which means that if you're like the Yeti call.
Yeah.
But like a lot of like serious scientists like he would have conversations with. Yeah. And there's one
so interesting.
I mean, his favorite topic was time travel.
Yeah.
So he has several episodes, hour and a half, 2 hours long.
Yep.
It's like amazing.
Yeah.
Like better than watching like a movie or I mean to really hear it, and it's totally plausible.
Yep.
And I believe they say traveling to the future is easier than traveling to the past. So figure that one out.
Yeah. Well, this show was just for a kid. I was also into my favorite books as a kid. Were called Choose Your Own Adventure. And it was a series of books where, you're reading a page and all of a sudden at the bottom, they'd have two separate paragraphs and you'd have to pick one. And then if you picked one of the two, the story would take on a different, and you would follow the path of the story that you chose, but then you could read the book again and follow the other page. It was just, again, I was always fascinated with space and time travel and
it just melts your
dimensions
brain.
and stuff. And this was from the time like I said, I was in elementary school reading these books, and I would get as many Choose Your Own Adventures as I could, and I would just plow through them. But it's funny you brought that time travel up, because the other day somebody, I guess something recommended into my YouTube algorithm a thing about that show Voyagers. And I was like, this was like my favorite show at one point as a kid. And unfortunately it stopped when the guy got killed, but it was fascinating. And I don't know if they're any closer, to be honest. I know there's all these theories out there, and scientists have been studying it, and I don't know if they're any closer to discovering really how to travel.
It's a difficult thing, but
it is mind-bending.
Physics suggests it is possible. So it's just a question of funding, and
when they do, provided humanity lasts as long as it takes to discover it, when they find out how to time travel or whatever,
forget it.
I mean, it's like game over. Now it's, I just don't know.
That's why I put a lot of stock in Elon Musk, because like his Neuralink thing is like the beginnings of that.
Yeah, I just,
because he figured it out. Like if it becomes what he suggests it's going to be, it's like if I'm sitting here talking to you, I could mentally click the save button.
Sure.
And if I'm laying here tonight, I could just open the file and go right back to this, which to me is kind of a time traveling scenario now.
I just, they have to master wormholes and things like that, and that's really the issue, is like speed and distance and things, and
also that we need fossil fuels to leave Earth.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing that we still use gasoline to blow out.
I know. I just don't know. I mean, to get the distance, that's really what they're going to have to find, those folds in space where if you hit it, you're automatically
shot where you need to get
light years ahead of where you were, and that's going to have to be mastered, because otherwise these places are just,
there's no way to reach them.
And to do it within the course of a lifetime is the issue. If an astronaut leaves at 20,
it's a generational discovery.
Yeah. So,
but
fascinating.
I mean, luckily, we have started.
Yes, we have. I just don't know. I just wonder if somebody could put a finger on, or a thumb on, how far we've come in actually from like the 50s to now, how far we are along the way of really, really mastering time travel.
You know who's going to know the answer to this, right?
Art Bell?
Aunt Linda.
Oh, she might.
She's going to comment on this. She'll have I know my aunt. She's going to be there real quick.
Yeah. Well,
she's going to know.
I just don't know if there's...
Art Bell would know, too.
Yeah, I just don't know. Look, there's people that could say it, but until it's actually applied practically,
Sure.
all these theories and stuff are great, but there's always that one thing that right as you launch, something happens that you didn't plan for. So they have to.
Well, when you look at things like CERN, I know that's not time travel,
Right.
but theoretically, the
Explain
argument
that
again,
for the people.
CERN is a hydroclimate collider. I don't
Okay.
know exactly like the term,
Right.
but it essentially they speed up particles in this like 10-mile.
They had one on Long Island, right? Isn't it? It was in Brookhaven. They had a place that actually.
I didn't know that.
About 10 or 20 years ago, yeah, I took when I was teaching. I took the kids there, and they had one of those. It's basically like you said. It's a circular, and they launch particles at each other, and to try to create some sort of,
Well, the argument is that it could potentially open up a black hole.
Yep.
And well, gee whiz,
Yeah.
that would be pretty scary to
Yeah.
have a black hole form.
But there
on
was
Earth.
one. I don't know if it was the University of Stony Brook or it was somewhere. No, it was at the Brookhaven National Lab. That's where it was.
That place is serious.
That's where it was. And it was the first one, I think, that in the country. It was like this big, really, it was big news back then for people who follow science. I
Right.
mean, a lot of, fortunately, I guess people have their own interests, but I would follow things like that. And I remember when they were opening it in Brookhaven, and so I took the kids one year when I was teaching to check it out, and it was like,
it's just mind blowing. The amount of engineering.
it's tremendous. First of all,
Right.
it's like you're talking about a mile or around, but it's
CERN is 10 miles.
yeah. I mean, it's
A
crazy.
10-mile
Yeah.
loop running
Yeah.
underneath mountains in
Yeah,
Geneva.
yeah.
I mean, like, Jesus.
Yeah.
And all the greatest scientists in the world go there and
Yeah.
work there and contribute. And
Well, our Brookhaven National Lab.
yeah, shout out to
Yeah.
anyone from the lab wants to
Yeah.
come on the podcast and enlighten
Love
us a
it.
little bit.
I
We would be
love
more
it.
than happy
Because
to
they
talk.
were among the first to really be into this type of
Right.
experiment.
Well, Long Island again has always been like on this aerospace
Yes.
type of thing,
Yes.
and
Grumman and stuff out
Yeah,
there. I mean,
yeah.
absolutely.
I mean they gave everyone cancer,
I
but
know.
unfortunately, that's one of the big problems on Long Island as well. We have a very high cancer rate and breast cancer rate,
We do.
particularly
I know.
in those
I know.
areas. Also, one of the most interesting characters in maybe all of history, Nikola Tesla, had his Shoreham plant, which if you ever look in the history books and you see the famous tower with the big ball on top and the lightning hitting it,
Yep.
that was here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How crazy is that?
Amazing.
And he was actually drawing electricity
Yeah.
from the air.
Yep.
Imagine how far. That's
Sorry,
all right.
but-
Imagine how far along.
Tesla doesn't get to. Well, now he's starting to, but years back, time
laughed
forgot
at.
him. Yeah, yeah,
As an eccentric
Yeah.
and as
Yep.
but how wrong people were.
yeah, yeah.
And then this loser, Thomas Edison. I'm sorry, to me, I don't
You
like
don't
the
like
guy. I
Edison?
don't like him. I feel like all he was good at was undermining and kind of shattering people's names. But at the same token, if Nikola Tesla had any cojones, he could have done the same thing right back to Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
But they were two different people.
They were very different,
Tesla wasn't concerned in riches,
Right.
whereas Edison was concerned in
Sure.
owning the electrical
Yeah.
grid.
Edison was obsessed with, he worked day and night to discover things and to put his name on it, and that's.
I'm a Tesla guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I
I
mean,
get
look,
it. I get it.
let me pay some respects to Thomas
Yeah.
Edison. He did invent some stuff, but at the same token, like, he really didn't invent as much as you think he did. Other people.
What he
came-
gets credit for, right?
right, like,
He bettered it in some cases or something, and that's a lot of guys. They might not be the first, but then they'll take it and they'll apply it in a certain way, and then
just
they,
like Zuckerberg with Facebook.
prime example.
Yep.
And now he is the face of Facebook.
Yeah, he's the Edison of Facebook.
I like Andrew Dice Clay calls it fuck face.
Oh,
Oh no, face fuck.
Facebook.
He was on getting interviewed
man.
somewhere, and he said to his girl that works for
Yeah.
what did you upload my thing on that face fuck, whatever they call it.
He's so local.
Yeah, yeah,
Like just
it's
like
hilarious.
Joey Diaz. Like
But
I
that's
feel
like
like we
such
know
a
these
simple
guys.
name, and it was like you've heard fake book, but it was like face fuck. It was so
That's
funny.
his style, man.
Total Andrew Dice Clay right there.
He's
you
the
know?
best.
He calls it face fuck.
He was like,
You know, the pictures with the family, my kid graduated on face fuck, you know?
woo! That's funny.
So funny.
Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah.
That's what the world needs right now, and that's the hardest thing to get is some good laughs.
Oh,
you know,
when I watched this thing and he said that, just like the guys that were interviewing, just like
it's
way
it's a
it was,
gut buster.
Yeah, it was just such a quick, and he said it to the girl, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't fucking, you know."
He's back on the cigarettes now, I think.
He holds the damn cigarette. He has like a Marlboro Light 100.
Yeah.
And he literally will sit for hours. And I don't understand because those cigarettes, you know, if anybody's a smoker, you know, those filters get pretty soggy if you suck on it for a while.
He has it to like a science.
And he just all day sits. I've never seen him actually light it.
No.
So
on Rogan he was.
Yeah.
Also, just a little update. This is in regards to the Joe Rogan debating. He has officially put out the offer to
they're
Joe
waiting
Rogan.
for Biden.
Yeah.
Because Trump said he would do it. But look, anybody who handles Biden.
# Joe Must Show. That's the social media campaign for it.
I mean, it's a suicide. It's almost walking the plank for Joe Biden because
if he says no, it's going to be a bad look for him either way. Because, I mean, Joe Rogan...
Well, it's a win-win for Trump either way.
Oh, God, is it?
Because, like you said, if he says no to it, if Biden says no, then and Trump's saying yes.
Wonder why.
And if he says yes, it's like walking into the lion's den. And Rogan will be fair. Rogan will be fair.
Absolutely.
I give him that.
But I have a feeling, though, Joe Biden's going to try to, like, undermine it. Like, Joe Rogan doesn't have, like, the smarts or something. You know what I mean? Even though...
Look, the guy spoke to Cardi B. I mean, if he's going to try to pull that, it's like, come on, man. You know, I don't think that's the route he'll go.
Get Rogan and Cardi B to do, like... this is where we're at.
Well, you need an interpreter to decipher what that moron says because they can't understand a word she says.
She's a total piece of garbage.
Yeah.
Another thing, I want to just ask you, what do you think of Edward Snowden? Did you watch the...
I watched it.
What do you think about him being pardoned?
Oh, I think that, you know, again, I get the argument, anybody revealing secrets against, but I think that if it's secrets that are determined where it's for the greater good, there's really no negatives. Like all the things that they were saying that were going to be negative if he revealed these secrets never came to fruition. So I think time has proven that what he revealed was the right intentions. It wasn't to undermine the country. I think he should absolutely be. But I think he's playing it right. He's not actively asking to be pardoned. Right. Yeah, I give the guy a lot of credit. He's trying to make sure other people are pardoned. I think he's playing it right, and I think eventually he will be.
I think in the future he'll be looked at as a hero.
Well, yes, I think that he's on the right side of history.
If you expose, like, see this, and like to what you're saying, if you expose truths that are working against the American people, then I just don't see why that would even be controversial. Spying on us is not, you know what I mean?
It wasn't anything that
wasn't nuclear secrets.
Yeah, I mean, obviously anybody revealing stuff that can in any way harm the American people, and even just to harm a politician purposely to screw somebody, it wasn't about that. You know, I just think that
it's amazing.
Time has eased what he did. You know, Assange's the one that he's getting
hammered.
Oof. But I do think that Snowden should definitely be pardoned, and I think he will be.
He will be a big hero's welcome when he comes home.
Yeah, I think he will be. I just don't know how soon. You know, and he brought up a good point. It probably really wasn't the main topic of Trump's day when it was going on, like what Snowden did. I mean,
like Trump probably could care less.
Yeah, I think the guy deserves it. I mean, for him to live in hiding at this point, it's like, enough time has passed. Nobody was brought down from what he did.
No one got hurt.
Nobody got hurt, and it was for the greater good. No
military actions were compromised.
Like I said, I think he will be, but he's playing it right. He's not actively asking for it.
Yeah,
he's not
on Trump.
Yeah. So,
what's amazing to me, not to be on the big Trump bandwagon, but this guy just wins and wins and wins and wins. He doesn't stop achieving, and You don't see anyone talking about this giant peace deal that's occurring in the Middle East. The guy is getting a Nobel. He was recommended the Nobel Peace Prize by a dude in Norway.
I've never seen a politician get as much flack. It's
crazy.
And what's happening is they're actually saying some of the people, not all, but a portion of Democrats are so fed up with the nonsense thrown at Trump that they're actually going to swing their vote. Because it is. You do that so much, and number one, how about like what you're almost showing that your candidate has nothing to offer,
right?
Because you're just too busy slinging mud at this guy.
It's crazy. So nobody knows anything Joe Biden's ever done.
Right.
All we know is that what he says about Trump.
Yep.
And just imagine a 4-hour debate between Trump and Biden. Even if they did,
that'll lay everything on that would lay everything on the table.
Very calm.
Yeah.
No bull crap.
Right, and then let everybody
decide.
Watch, and then that's when you decide. But just to watch slinging mud, and then the things well, Trump's a rapist. Trump's this. Like, what?
Right.
What? You know?
Where do you get that information?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you can look at both people and sling mud at each of them equally.
Yeah, they're both pussy grabbers.
Right. I mean, they both have their flaws. But I just wanted to see issue for issue where they stand, and then that's when you make your choice. You know, there can't be any easier than that. But they won't. I don't think Biden will do it. I don't think his handlers will let him do it. I don't think he's capable.
Well, then he's not fit for president. It's just crazy. It's crazy
Look,
to me.
There is nothing that Trump can do to endear himself to these people. I mean,
they hate him.
The hatred
is ridiculous.
It's like, it's gross. Like, it's at the point where it's, you know.
Well, that's why we're in this mess as
it
is.
Right. So, but I think that, like I said, I think even if he got on there and he slaughtered him in a debate,
people still wouldn't
they'll
care.
still find fault.
So that's why Joe Biden shouldn't be so concerned, yes or no. It's like the people have already determined who they're going to vote for. There's a slim minority that are going to swing.
Right.
So it's like, just do it. It's the best case scenario in 2020.
I think that, you can really, his flaws will be very evident at that point.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I mean, that's a long debate, 4 hours.
Work. Work.
I agree.
You're supposed to work as the president.
I agree.
And Trump has no trouble doing that.
I think most people agree, and I just think that the ones that, his handlers.
Did you see him get off the plane the other day and wave at an empty airfield?
Yeah, I think again, that type of stuff. I mean, there was somebody sent it to me, and
it's immature.
Like he might have been waving at a reporter. Who knows?
Could have been a guy.
Right.
Still,
I know it was funny, but like I said,
that's the problem.
That type of stuff, to me, is so irrelevant to who I'm going to vote for. I just want to see them discuss the issues.
Yes.
For instance, how would you handle the protests that went on?
Right.
How would you handle police reform, if any? How would you handle education? How would you then I can make my decision.
I don't know.
How would you have handled COVID? Since all you've done is criticize what Trump did, let's say you were in the same situation. What would you have done?
That's not fair, though, because then
it's not fair.
Woulda, coulda.
It's not right, and I agree with you. But I'd like to see what's this plan that you have that would, when you become president, what can you do to calm the nation? What can you? I would still like to hear what his plans are with things. And I don't, like I said, it's not fair because he wasn't in that situation. It's very easy to play armchair quarterback. Right. Sure. But I'd still like to see.
The other thing where Biden totally lost me is the other day he posted a tweet kind of saying that he was going to put a ban on high magazine assault rifles.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm at a point. I think we need more guns. I really do. And it was just such a blatant tweet, and I know it's ridiculous to refer to a tweet, but this is from the horse's mouth.
Right.
That's the thing that makes it hold so much water, you know. And I know it's bad, but maybe we can invest in the education system and mental health, and maybe try to stop feeding. What are the drugs? like Xanax,
antidepressants
to kids,
Yeah.
like it's like normal Tic
Yeah.
Tacs.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think also a debate like that would be like a death knell for the archaic form of getting your news, which is watching a regular news program on TV. And very few people watch everybody gets their news from the internet. And I think
the amount of viewers
or cable
that Joe
or
Rogan has.
Yeah.
Because what we see is just these like watered down numbers that YouTube
Right.
wants you to see.
Right. Sure.
But the reality is, it's like hundreds of millions around the world.
I'm sure.
So it's like, it's pretty crazy. Like when you think of the scale of that, it's remarkable. But I really, my fingers are crossed for that one. I mean,
I don't know. I would be very surprised. I would be very surprised if, and it's
to me, if Biden doesn't accept,
Mm-hmm.
that's like turning down, like being a champion and turning down a fight.
Well, it's a win-win for Trump, and it's a lose-lose for Biden.
Right. It's crazy. You never know what 2020 is going to throw at you, man. You just don't.
Whose idea was this?
I think Joe Rogan said he would be open to doing it on a podcast.
Okay.
And I think low-key Trump heard it.
Trump was smart.
And
Trump was smart.
Yep.
He said, I know if I say I'll do this,
Rogan will come out and say he'll do it too.
and then the onus is on Biden, and Biden will lose either way. So
Yep.
it was a win-win for him to go.
Brilliant. The guy plays three-dimensional chess all day.
But like I said, unfortunately, there is nothing that Trump will do to convince the ones that hate him. These people have dug in so, and I look at some of the comments and I'm just amazed at the anger that people have. I mean, whatever happened to supporting your president?
I don't know. I supported Obama.
I couldn't stand Obama.
But I supported him as the president.
He was the president, and
if anything would have happened to him in office, I would have been furious.
Right.
But people want to literally kill the guy.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Those people, it's like...
And it's funny because these are the same, like, F the man people.
Yeah.
That's what Trump is. He's
Yeah.
the F the man guy.
Right.
And then you want the old status quo.
These people are such... They don't know what they're dodos.
I'll never forget the time that I had a couple guests over, and they were, like, really anti-Trump. And I mentioned the fact that, he had brokered this peace talk with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
And they're, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like they don't even know anything, but they run around like they're these like professors.
They're sheep.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, really spooky stuff, really crazy. This
Trick or treat. There will be Halloween in New York this year.
Yeah, Governor Meatballs says it's all good, so we'll see how that goes.
Trick or treat.
But I wonder, Thanksgiving, how's that going to be? I mean, as long as they televise it.
The parade?
Yeah.
Virtual, like you said. That's how they're going to do it. Yeah. They'll televise it.
But they're going to tell people, like, please, like, socially distance at Thanksgiving dinner. Like, that's not going to work, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. They're not going to do too much.
They didn't want us to go out for Labor Day. They didn't want us to go out for the 4th of July. But protest as hard as you can. So that's what pisses me off about televising it. How are they going to control the streets? They can't control protests. How are you going to control from people attending to watch?
Well, I don't know if they're going to actually have a procession. I don't know how they're going to do it. Oh, they are?
Yeah. The floats are already made. They got Snoopy with a NASA spacesuit and all that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll see as I see more about it, I'll comment. I don't know. Interesting.
A lot of stuff to come on the Future History podcast.
Very interesting.
Everybody have a... Oh, one thing. Aunt Linda wanted me to...
About the schools?
Was a request. Do you know someone by the name of May Ping who was like rolling with John Lennon?
May Pang, yes.
May Pang?
Yes.
Can you tell me anything about that?
Yes, May Pang was... I believe she was like a housekeeper or babysitter or something for Yoko and John. She was young. She was like in her early 20s. And then Yoko Ono decided that John needed a little break and said to May Pang, would you take him, like maybe you guys go off to California or go somewhere together? Yeah, and have some, keep an eye on him, have a relationship, and we'll see what happens with our marriage or whatever. So Lennon had what he called his lost weekend, and he went over and he hung out with guys like Harry Nilsson, who was like popular in the 70s, Ringo, some other musicians, Joe Walsh, some other musicians from the 70s, and he just got bombed all the time. And there was a recording, I believe, during that time with Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney, and a few other people where they were all just blitzed in the studio jamming.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
That's my favorite.
And then apparently he called Yoko and said, "Can I come home now?" And she said, "Yeah." And then they got reunited. But May Pang is still around. She gets interviewed and stuff about Lennon. Yeah.
See, I never heard of her. And Aunt Linda was like flipping that I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
So she was like, she had a little special request.
Yeah, she's still around, May Pang, and she was, like I said, she did have a sexual and relationship with John and everything else, and you know, she's all
right.
She's a very intelligent woman when you hear her talk and stuff. She's not just some dumb broad, you know.
Yeah.
So,
well, Aunt Linda, if you're listening, sorry it's at the ass end of the episode, but that's just how it goes. At least we remembered. And thank you all. Have a happy Wednesday. And we'll be back tomorrow with another Future History.